Welcome back to the show. All right, we're talking about Irish leaders who were subdued by the English, people like Sir Humphrey Gilbert. Sir, we don't use that term lightly, or perhaps we should. Walter Raleigh. The Irish nobility was in many ways wiped out as English moved in, taking control of Dublin. Anything beyond Dublin was called beyond the pale. Right? Again, the Irish were seen as kind of barbaric, pagan, and superstitious, and all this anti-Catholic sentiment coming out of Reformation in England at this time. Okay? And the Irish, the Celts, in some ways to maintain their national identity, remained staunchly Catholic for a long time. Speaking of Walter Raleigh, attempts a colony off the coast of North Carolina really was supposed to be a base for pirates, for these privateers who attacked the Spanish ships on their way home. It wasn't really well equipped. It was early 1580s at last, for less than a year. The island, second colony, was also failed. Look, the English would expect the native people to feed them, right? That somehow the native people, being, as they saw, barbaric, kind of like the Irish, not Protestant Christian, needed to somehow serve the English, who were kind of bedraggled, who couldn't feed themselves, were kind of seen as a joke by the native people. Okay, they smelled badly, they were dirty. Okay, the real barbarian, kind of in the words of Michel de Montaigne, was the European, right, and the Native Americans. So the English were also alienated by their growing racial attitudes toward people of different skin tone. The other, the capital other. So the second island was abandoned off the coast of North Carolina, Roanoke, and there's this mystery for a long time. Actually, just recently, past couple weeks or so, some archaeologists who were studying this for years said, yeah, the English people were left there. The English ships had to go back and get supplies, and they got caught up in a war with Spain, and they come back a couple years later, and the island's abandoned. Croatoan is carved into a tree. What does it mean? It meant that the English who lived blended in with the Native Americans, okay? Being either captive or not, being in marriage or captive, we don't know. But I would have thought maybe some DNA analysis, forensic evidence could have been used here, but apparently that's not available. So they did find English artifacts in what archaeologically were Native American villages. So no permanent colony until our next chapter, Jamestown, Virginia. Okay, James named after the King of England, James I. Virginia named after his cousin Elizabeth, who had never married. Get it? This is how you keep the royals happy. Read the little section there with Native Americans brought back to England, kidnapped, brought to England. They're supposed to learn English and become kind of interlopers or intermediaries between English and Native American culture. As curiosities as well, like, oh, look what we found in the Americas. Okay, people, naked people. Okay, talk about Pocahontas next time as well. Actually, that was not her real name; it was her nickname. The English actually called her Rebecca, but she had a different Native American name. Starts with an M, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But let's look at someone else who had been to England, learned English, and ends up back in the Americas just in time for the Europeans to show up and try to settle Squanto. Okay, I'm going to pause this for 1 second, if I can. Okay, pause. This is actually from our textbook, because you guys can't hear this. These technical difficulties here. Okay, you've got to love this COVID era. Okay, plus. Okay, closed captioning. Okay, got that? Whoops, you can't see anything. So it didn't matter. PowerPoint needs to go bye-bye. There you go. Okay. Let me get the sound going. Do about a 4-minute video, and then I just want to discuss our upcoming exam.
Of 1621, the small band of pilgrims that had landed on Plymouth Rock the previous fall found themselves in need of help. They received that help from the nearby Indian tribe of the Wampanoag. As popular folklore goes, they were lucky to have the aid of a friendly Indian named Squanto, or Tisquantum in his pronunciation. He showed them how to plant corn in this new wilderness with the unique method of using fish for fertilizer. Part of this history is true. The hapless English colonists did receive the aid of Squanto, but the land in which the pilgrims made their new homes was no wilderness, but an old Indian village. Fish fertilizer was not an Indian tradition at all. Instead, this practice originated in medieval Europe. And the colonists would have recognized that Tisquantum sought not mere friendship had they asked for the meaning of their host's self-chosen name. Tisquantum, they would have learned, meant nothing less than God's wrath. The answers to this puzzle lie in Tisquantum's surprisingly adventurous life. Born in the Cape Cod village of Patuxet, Tisquantum's childhood had probably been more comfortable than that of most Englanders. The Wampanoag's ritus, with its tightly woven rush mats and chestnut bark, were warmer than our English houses, colonist William Todd wrote with admiration, denying entrance to any drop of rain. Wampanoag women crushed dried maize into no-cake. Flour, colonist Todd found
so toothsome and hearty that an Indian will travel many days with no other but this meal.
Tisquantum's education as a chief's bodyguard, on the other hand, stressed self-reliance, endurance, and an almost inconceivably high threshold for pain. Tisquantum's adventures began in 1614, when Virginia's captain John Smith landed in Patuxet. He was hardly the first European visitor. Ships anchored at Cape Cod frequently, and Tisquantum's village had hosted Samuel de Champlain as recently as 1606. But things took a different turn when Smith left the village, leaving behind his lieutenant, Thomas Hunt. He lured several villagers on board and following a bloody shootout captured Tisquantum and at least 19 others to sell them into slavery in the Spanish port town of Malaga. There, he was rescued by a group of Catholic priests.
Technical
The church
difficulties.
officially prohibited the enslavement of Native Americans in 1537. From Spain, Tisquantum was smuggled to England. There, he served as an exotic attraction in the home of shipbuilder John Slaney, who taught Tisquantum English.
Okay.
Eventually, Slaney arranged for Tisquantum's passage back across the Atlantic on a small vessel that left him in a Newfoundland fishing camp. From here, our Patuxet traveler had to catch a ride for the remaining 1,000 miles to his hometown. But when he finally got there, in the spring of 1619, the familiar coastline was deserted, and bleached bones were scattered among Patuxet's empty homes. When Smith's men had visited 5 years earlier, they had left behind a viral hepatitis. When Tisquantum had left, New England had a growing population of at least 100,000 souls. Now, 90% of them lay dead. Without home and family, Tisquantum soon found himself a captive of Chief Massasoit of the neighboring Wampanoag tribe. It was at this moment that the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, which was their name for the abandoned village of Patuxet. They had no inkling that their friendly native had traveled far more than they had and was teaching them fertilizer tricks he had picked up in Europe. Neither did they suspect that he was using them in his efforts to restore Patuxet, gain his freedom from Massasoit, and make himself head of the Wampanoag Federation. In the end, though, illness and his death foiled his plans, as it had that of his many countrymen.
All right. Interesting. Okay. So you see this. Maybe you are not the only one having technical difficulties here. I do want to pull up our syllabus quickly. So lecture and discussion topics. So here we are about ready to begin chapter 3. That'll be, well, no classes Monday, okay? Labor Day Monday. So we will do most of chapter 3 on Wednesday, the 9th, and then a YouTube video to follow up. And then the following week, chapter 4. So history follows chronologically and our course numerically through chapters, which is the same thing. Right? But keep in mind that from September 14th through the 21st, we have our first exam on those 4 chapters. Chapters 1 through 4, there'll be 5 questions, 5 essay questions, composed through Blackboard. 1 question per chapter plus a 5th question on the current event stuff that I gave you. So there are 4 readings from current event sources, or at least they were current 2 weeks ago when I gave them to you. So read those, and somehow out of those 4 current events articles, I'm going to devise 1 question. Right? So 5 short essays. You have a week to do it. Keep in mind we have weekly quizzes as well, and you should be engaging in the discussion board when we YouTube, or when I YouTube and you watch it. Right? So discuss that so I know that you actually are paying attention to the videos. And of course, when we Zoom, I'm doing attendance as well. I realize sometimes it's difficult to participate, but if you do have a camera, please turn it on, okay? It's frustrating for professors when they just see a blank screen with someone's name on it. We don't know if that person went out for coffee or what, if they're actually there. So being there actually means being there. If you don't have a camera, and I know they're difficult to find now right now because of all the remote learning, please at least engage in the chat session. Okay, so like, hey, you can't see me, but I'm here. And I think Squanto was using the Puritans for his own purpose, that type of thing. Okay. Well, that would be next time when we're Zooming. Right now, you can put that in the discussion board. All right, so as always, email me, call me, or after we Zoom together, I will stay on Zoom until your questions are answered. So I have had a number of students actually take advantage of that. So when the class ends, we stay on Zoom for a little bit and they can answer questions quickly. Okay. So we'll try to generate some level of connection in this remote world that we're living in now for a while anyway. They're saying if there's a vaccine that works, it's not going to be widely available until probably late, mid-2021, which would be late in the spring semester. So we might be doing this, most likely we'll be doing this again in the spring. So hang in there, stay healthy, but stay smart as well. Speaking also of current events, there are people doing some understandable things, I guess, when you're young and you want to get out of quarantine, but let's be smart, okay? And stay healthy. I will see you folks. Enjoy your Labor Day, and I will see you, and actually you will see me on Wednesday. Thanks.